everyone, how's everyone doing? So I'm going to try and keep this video short as I can. If you've been watching YouTube lately and you're aware of a program or a series called Blue Therapy, then you'll know that it's just blown up on the internet and everyone is making reaction videos to it. I watched one the other day which was a reaction video and it had 7,000 comments. I literally put my few comments in there as a counsellor. I find it really interesting, and if you haven't watched it, check it out. So it's called Blue Therapy, and the premise of the program is that it's a social experiment. Now there's a debate whether the couples on the show are real or whether they're acting. It's a debate whether the therapist is real or whether she's an actress, but either way it's a social experiment looking at how two different couples bring their relationship issues, how the therapist deals with it, how they are in the counselling room. So what I do want to say is I personally don't think that it's helped promote or encourage couples counselling because of the way that it's been done. I'm just going to give you 4 quick errors that I found when I was watching it that I feel that the therapist kind of was doing. The first one is that she was very biased towards one of the couples is called Paul and Chioma. I hope I pronounced it right. I felt she was more biased towards the female, and this happens a lot in couples counselling. As a couples counsellor, you just need to be aware yourself. If you're biased towards either the male or the female, then the counselling is not going to be effective, and that's what I felt was one of her errors. She was asking some irrelevant questions, some provocative questions that actually escalated things in the counselling room. She was allowing situations to escalate between the couples, and she was not building on or exploring the positives of the relationship. The reason it's got so many views and there's so much people that are debating and discussing this therapy sessions is partly because of the therapist and how she didn't do the correct interventions. If it was a typical therapist session where, you know, the therapist is there for both the couple, building on their strengths, addressing the issues, you know, tackling and diving straight in, not taking sides, then I think it would have been more realistic of what therapy is like. So all I'm going to do, I'm not going to show you clips of the Blue Therapy. I'm just going to look at 4 different issues that I think arose. So what you can do is you just have to either imagine what I'm talking about or go and watch it, and you can come back and then you can comment. You might not agree with me. The first issue was between Chioma and Paul, and the issue was that she bringing other people into the counselling room instead of focusing on their relationship. This was, once again, the therapist was at fault a little bit. If you're a couple and your in-laws are the issue, or your, you know, someone else is the issue, it's fine to mention that in the therapy. You know, I don't get on with my boyfriend's mum. I don't get on with my sister-in-law. However, if that therapy session is then focused just on, you know, this person who's not in the room, they're not there to defend themselves, they're not there to address the issues or for you to talk about it, I personally feel you should acknowledge it, but you should then either suggest for another counselling session where it can be explored when the person is there, or you should bring it back to the couple that is there. So what happened in that situation was Chioma was criticising Paul, her partner's sister, and she was also criticising the nieces and nephews. So she kept saying things like, they're not our kids, why does your sister keep leaving her kids with us? What, you know, she's not a good parent, and she used the B word to describe his sister. Now my feeling is that when you have someone who's got really strong feelings towards your partner's family, obviously he's going to get aggravated and agitated in the session, and it's bringing them more apart, this issue is. So you need to really tackle that as a therapist, but also you need to tackle resolutions. So you might suggest, okay, Chioma, have you considered meeting up with the sister to explore? None of that was discussed. The therapist just allowed it, and also she allowed it to go on for way too long. They were just going, you know, the more angry Chioma was getting about the sister, the more Paul was getting angry because she's talking about his sister and his nieces and nephews. That went on and on and on and on. And I just feel that it contributed and escalated the couple's therapy. It didn't make things better. The second issue was the point scoring between them. So this wasn't just with this couple, it was the other couple as well. Both couples in this couples therapy experiment, there was a lot of competitiveness and point scoring. So you shouldn't be doing this, and why are you doing that, and why are you worried about what I'm doing on Instagram? Why are you telling me that I shouldn't dance in a particular way, or I shouldn't do this? Why are you telling me I shouldn't be investing money in... I mean, she said at one point, Chioma did to her, to Paul, you keep investing and it doesn't always work out, you know, so it's basically saying you're failing at certain things. He then came back and said, well, something like you enjoy the money that comes from it and that sort of thing. And then he also said to her, well, you're not doing this on your Instagram and stuff, and that was back and forth. And I think at the bottom of it, what she was trying to say, Chioma, was that she wanted more time spent with him rather than him going off with clients and investing money and time and energy. He was trying to say that he's doing that because he wants them to have a good life together, and it's financial, and he has to do that for his clients. Not a lot of people kind of saw it that way, because they were saying he keeps going on about his business. Some of the viewers were saying he thinks he's fantastic because he has all these big baller viewers and he shouldn't be spending money on them. But you have to recognise the dynamics of a relationship. I think when people are watching, or people from the outside, and you might not be therapists, you're judging one side of the couple based on what they're saying, but you're not looking at, they've been together for 3 years, their lifestyle is built on these things. So it should really be about exploring the impact that each of their behaviour has on the relationship and looking for a compromise. The third issue was Paul's resistance to therapy. So the first couple, as I've said, Chioma and Paul. Chioma chose the counsellor, and it's always an issue when one person chooses therapy and chooses the therapist. There's usually one half of the couple doesn't want to be there. Now, his resistance was shown verbally because he was asking her, trying to rate her, what's your level of success? You know, and he was saying sometimes very rude things to her, like, I don't want to talk to you or whatever. The issue there was that he didn't want to be there. The therapist was biased towards his girlfriend. The therapist didn't attempt to explore why he didn't want to be there, explore what counselling is about, that sort of thing. Also didn't try to get him on side. He felt that his words were not being listened to. It's not about who was right or wrong. The therapist in some ways could have tried more. He could have definitely not been that rude towards the therapist. Chioma, I think, also used the situation to her advantage because she knew the therapist was on her side. I felt there were times where she sort of maybe said things or did things that aggravated the situation. Example is Paul walked out at one point. When he came back in, rather than starting off on a new chapter, she went straight back in talking about his sister. Now, if you know he's already highly strung because he's just walked out, why are you going to start then? And she said it, Chioma said, I know this is going to trigger you, but then she still continued to say it. And I just thought the timing wasn't really right. And the therapist kind of could have stepped in there. The fourth and final issue is just the competitiveness between them as a couple, the way they communicate, the way that they were confrontational. Lots of people who were watching this series have not picked up on the communication that Chioma has said towards Paul. What they've seen is an attractive woman. This happens in society a lot as well. If someone's a beautiful woman and they are maybe successful, or they're this or they're that, people will disregard or dismiss the issues with the person. If you're in a relationship for 3 years, it's never about one person who's the issue. Take domestic violence out of the situation. If you're in a relationship and there's issues, you can't just say, well, it's all this person's fault. Now, if you read all the comments in all of these episodes that I've watched, there was no accountability for this woman, and her language and just body language, tone, sarcasm, just how she was talking to him was not in a loving way. He was disrespectful as well, rude, didn't listen. This is Paul. His tone wasn't good either. He was being petty, sarcastic, childish, but they're both bouncing off each other. If your energy is a certain way in a relationship, then the other person's going to match your energy. So one of you has to change it for it to change. Now, the fact is that they just need to work on their communication, and I think the therapist could have helped with that. She could have said, Paul, how does it feel when Shirma is using words like she feels like she's suffering in this relationship? He picked up on it, Paul did. He said, well, if you're suffering, he said that hurt his. He said he was disappointed that she was using that language. The therapist could have probably used that opportunity to explore how they communicate to each other, how they could be more loving towards each other, why they use certain language. Also, the body language was there, all the way through. With both couples, I'd say there was body language issues where you could clearly see that there was tension. Now, in my counselling sessions, if I'm working with couples, if I notice certain body language, I'll bring it into the session. So I'll say, I noticed when your partner said this, your face changed. I noticed when he mentioned this, you rolled your eyes. I noticed when he did this, you moved away. I noticed throughout the session, you've both been moving further apart from each other. That's what a counsellor should be doing, noticing the body language and then taking action so that they're aware of it and then discussing what it means. So I find it really, really interesting, the whole series. So far there's been number 1, therapy session number 1, number 2 and number 3. The 2 couples are Deborah and Jamal, and Chioma and Paul. So it's called Blue Therapy. It's on YouTube. Hopefully it will continue. I'm looking forward to some of the more episodes. Please tell me what you think about my review and make your own reviews, because I think it's been really good that we're actually talking about therapy. However, as I've said, I don't think it's a true representation of what good couples therapy is. Thanks for watching. Please feel free to like, to share, to leave your comments. Take care. Bye.